Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Clap once. Can you hear me? Clap twice. Thank you. Welcome this evening to City Council's Town Hall for Charleena Lyles. My name is Brianna Thomas, and I am very happy to welcome the Reverend Kelly Brown to invocation to start off this evening.
Thank you. Let us be in a posture of prayer. Holy One, who is known by many names, who hears each called name, and who answers our cries. We acknowledge you today in this place, in every person who is alive and who is breathing today. Creator God, have been our help in ages past. And we ask that you be present in our dialogue today. Spirit, make us one people. Make us hear each other. Make us hear the things that we say and those things that we do not say. Today, oh God, we ask that you transform us. Transform us in our grief and in our trauma for questions. For we honor the life of Charleena Lyles this day, cut short too soon. Transform in us our anger and remind us that we have permission to be angry. And let us call our anger righteous, for it is such. Transform us in who we are with each other. For God, you have made no sides among your people. Transform us in how we report what has happened and help for us to resist the seduction by the dead. Transform us in our hearts and in our minds so that we do not reserve tears for some that look like us and not for those who do not. Change us, Holy God, and help us to refine who we are and to learn how to walk together in the same direction. Help us to regard one another as holy and sacred people. And remind us that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again while expecting different results. Remind us, oh God, that Charleena's children are now our children, and they deserve more than trauma. Let us resolve to be the great city of Seattle and to stand over and against our Seattle ice to learn how to gather one another with loving arms. Remind us that we must restore the love and joy and hope of all of our children. And oh God, we look for the day where the leaders that sit before us are reminded that their imaginations are enough for this world to be changed. We thank you, God, that the power is in this room right now. The power is in this room. It is enough to change this world for the better. Holy God, we will be alive long enough to see that Seattle will be the next city that will be counting the years since its last death by the hands of police. God, make it so. And we pray this prayer, knowing that everyone under the sound of my voice is very loved. Amen.
Sí, bueno, muy buenas tardes. Soy un intérprete en español. Quien requiera un intérprete en español, tenemos el equipo aquí enfrente. Por favor, vengan conmigo y aquí yo los ayudo. Thank you. Gracias.
I want to thank once again Reverend Kelly Brown for sharing with us those beautiful words. It is my hope that those words will see us this evening, not just with us council members, but with all of us as one community this evening. So, sharing a few words with her before we call to order this very important community conversation and forum. So if you can help me express our collective gratitude to the Reverend for and for her wonderful words of inspiration today. So please help me in welcoming and thanking Ellen. We hope to be able to have a productive conversation that is respectful of your daughter's memory and that will help us do right. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to our facilitator, Michelle Storms, who is the Deputy Director for the ACLU of Washington and will guide us through this evening's conversation.
There are so many of you here, but I have to say, I so deeply wish we didn't have to come together in this way. We are in the midst of a tragedy and a terrible situation because Charleena Lyles is not with us anymore. She was shot and killed, and that is a loss that is in front of us. So you are going to have an opportunity to speak, and I want to talk with you about how that's going to work, because we're doing something a little different tonight, because here's the thing. In the prayer, Pastor Brown said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same results. If you want to see different things happen, you have to do things differently. It is not an easy thing to transform, to change from the inside, but it's necessary. We know it's called for, and we're asking for your patience and help as we attempt to do something differently so that we can have a different result. So we're here with the city council by design, okay, so that you can talk to the people who make policy related to policing, related to mental health, related to housing, to all these very critical issues that impact on this case, most recent case, but frankly impact on so many other of the tragedies that have happened in our community and the tragedies that we want to stop and not have happen anymore. So that's what we're here to do. And the way we're going to do it is, normally those of you who go to city council meetings, there's the sign up, there's the 2-minute warning and all that good stuff. We're not doing that today. There's a microphone over here, and there's a microphone over here. And if you'll wait and bear with me while I explain the procedure, you'll have the opportunity to line up there to speak. And I apologize because we have opened up to the balcony. There's not a microphone up there. If you need to speak, you'll have to come downstairs. It looks different from a regular council meeting. You don't usually have a facilitator for a council meeting, and in fact, in my role at the ACLU, I imagine sometimes the council's happy to see me coming and sometimes they're not happy to see me coming, but they did invite me to try to help keep this conversation moving in a good way, and so that's what I'm here to do. So you were given, when you came into the room, this paper that had a list of agreements on it, and I actually want to walk through that with you before we begin because it's important. It's important to trying to do something a little different. We're doing this intentionally, and I'm going to walk through these, and then I'm going to ask you for your support in having us carry out these agreements today as we proceed. So the first thing that I want to call out is you probably noticed before that different people came to the microphone and they were speaking in different languages. We have interpreters here so that community members can fully participate if English is not their first language. So when it is your time to speak, I ask that you would speak slowly and remember to pause because we are currently employing translators in 5 languages, including American Sign Language. And we want to ensure that everyone gets to participate fully in the conversation. The second is that we want to prioritize in this moment the most impacted community voices first. We're honored that even in the midst of their grief, members of the Charleena Lyles family have come here, and if they want to speak, they will speak first. And that's very important. But also I have to call out that when these things happen, there are many of us for whom this is a trauma on top of a trauma, even if it wasn't directly our family. So after we honor that space for the Lyles family to speak if they wish to, the next would be self-identified women of color, followed by self-identified men of color, and then all others. That's the second community agreement. That's our request that you prioritize. The third of our agreements we call the move up and move back. So if you are a person who's normally comfortable speaking out and speaking up, we hope that you will consider leaving space for those for whom it's a little bit more difficult to have that courage to speak. And if you're a person who normally doesn't speak up, but you have something to say, this is the chance for you to let your voice be heard. Your words don't have to be perfect, they have to just be sincere. The next is to please be mindful of time. Although they were not keeping to the 2-minute limit, I will be watching the time because there are so many voices here that need to be heard tonight. We want to include as many as possible within a finite space of time that we have together. So I am going to also ask your kindness with me. I may have to ask you to wrap up, and I will ask you to wrap up when that time happens because there are other people who need to speak. The next community agreement is regarding planned actions. We know and we recognize the value of when people need to want to have an action to speak out about something that's important. In the event of that, we will ask for the community for consensus, for ceding some time to that action so that we can accommodate it. We're still going to want to be operating together in a timely manner because there are so many voices that need to be heard. Just 2 more. Next, listen respectfully, please, and suspend judgment. This space is inherently charged with all of our perspectives, and it's charged with a lot of emotion. So we ask that you refrain from booing, hissing, cheering, out of respect for everyone in this space tonight. Let's just practice listening and listening. Finally, if you need space, if you're feeling emotional and you need space, you can take that. There are some support people who are here. Have any of the support people entered the room? So there are, thank you. Yeah, if you could just wave. Are there some on that side? Is it just, okay. So if you need a moment and you need to just be with someone and be in your grief or in your feelings, they have kindly offered up to do that with you, and they'll just be right outside or right in this area. So feel free to utilize that. So those are the community agreements that we put together for tonight, because again, we are trying to do something different in the hope that we can create a space, create a container, create some opportunity for us to actually get information out so that we can go forward with it, so that we can do better, because we desperately need to do better. We need for this not to happen anymore. I don't know how much many more of us can take of hearing about it in the news, and for the family, they're in grief. So let's try to do this in a productive way. So now I am asking you for the first time to speak, and my request is, can you agree with us to hold these community agreements so that we can have a productive meeting? Can I hear a yes, please? Yes. Can I hear a yes, please, upstairs? Yes. All across the room, one more time, can I please hear a yes? Yes. Thank you so very much. I'm deeply appreciative. Okay. So as promised, we're now taking in the space where people are able to speak, and to the Lyles family, if any of you would like to say something, let me know. Okay, so we're going to bring you a microphone, sir. Thank you.
How's everybody doing? I know I'm not. For the record, my name is Charles, Charles, and my last name is Lyles, Lyles. And I've been up here since Wednesday, and every time I hear my daughter's name, it's not pronounced right. Just like my name is Charles, her name is Charleena. Yeah, we thought we was gonna have another boy or something, you know. And I was so bent on naming him after me that I named her after her. Me and the mama named her after me, kind of. But for the record, I hope you guys could get her name right. It's not Charlene, it's Charleena, you know. But I'm so hurt inside because I've always heard to lose a child is devastating, and now I see how it is, you know. And every so often, she died on Father's Day. That's the worst part about it. So every day, every Father's Day, I'm gonna think about this, you know. And my dad, he lost a son on Father's Day. So I'm going through the same thing that he's going through, you know. But my daughter her kids was her world. And she was real small. I mean, this is literally, she weighed about 95, maybe. She might have been weighing less than that, and she was like 5'3". So I just feel bad that she's gone. And my thing is, her kids are so devastated, you know, to see their mother laying there. But I'm so hurt, man. I keep on having these anxiety attacks, depression, because she was the only girl I have, and then this is my son right here, so I only had 2 kids, a girl and a male. And it's just sad, especially up under the circumstances that she died up under. But I'm not going to talk about the police or nothing like that. That's something legal for somebody else. I'm just going to say my daughter loved life. There's no way she would have wanted the cops to come in there and kill her, especially in front of her kids. You know, so we need to dismiss that off the top. What happened, her boyfriend kept harassing her, and he burglarized her house. And every time she would call the police, they wouldn't even put a restraining order against him. So she called the police that day to take a report of somebody burglarizing her house. And for some reason, they shot her 5 times. And you know, they trying to say she had knives. She didn't have knives. You know, everybody got knives in their house, so I mean, who doesn't have a knife in their house, in the kitchen? You know, but I'm just so hurt. And it feels like my heart is ripped out. And I would never be able to hold a conversation with her. Never be able to play. Me and her used to play games on each other, you know. And we had a beautiful relationship. And I'd never be able to. It's just sad, man. And her kids they were all 4 of them was together when she was born. I mean, before she passed. And now 2 kids are here, and the other 2 kids are there. The other day, we went over where the 2 older kids, one's 11, one's 12. And when they seen their little brother and sister, before they could even say hi, Grandpa, they ran and grabbed them 2 little kids. Because their siblings, they love their people. And it's just so sad that their mother's gone and they are separated. The 2 oldest ones are somewhere, and the 2 youngest ones are somewhere. And that's sad, because the older ones really want to see the young ones. So I hope eventually they can all be together, you know. But the main thing I got up for was the pronunciation of her name. You know what I mean? Everybody says Charlene, her name is Char, like charcoal, Charles, Charleena. And I could spell it. I used to call her Charlie. Yeah, that was her nickname. And she said, Dad, don't be calling me that. That's a boy's name. I said, I'll spell it with a Y. She said, I still don't want you to call me that. But we called her Lena. Lena. She picked that for her. She said, my name is Lena. You know, and she had a beautiful personality. And she loved life to the fullest. I think I said that before. And there's no way she'd have called the police over to kill her, especially in front of her kids. I mean, they're putting a twist on it or whatever. But, man, this woman was so upset the police would never do nothing about her boyfriend's jumping her, you know? And she just wanted justice. And they ended up killing her. And it was on Father's Day, you know? I don't know if you guys know what chitlins are, but on Father's Day, I woke up early that morning. I'm living in California. Put me a big old pot of chitlins on. And I said to myself, I'm going to just sit here and wait for my kids to call me, you know. And after they call me, I'm just sit here and enjoy myself at home. And then her sister called me with that news, and I was so devastated. I was real devastated. And I'm glad my sister and my other 3 sisters or other 2, they came to my house to comfort me, because I didn't want to be by myself after that. I didn't know what to do, you know. And then when everybody left my house, I couldn't stay in that house. So I got out and went over to a friend of mine's house to telling him about it, and my niece brought my son up there to me. And I was so happy to see him, you know, because when you're at a time like this, a person doesn't need to be by themselves. You know, so I like to, wow, I was sitting with my back to the crowd. I didn't realize this whole place is full. And I just appreciate all the support you guys could give for my daughter. Thank you.
Mr. Lyles, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Anyone else from the family have some words? You don't have to. I just want to give you that space. Yeah. Thank you for being here. So, pursuant to our agreement, next, I'm just going to call out to the microphone women, self-identified women of color who would like to speak about their thoughts, whatever they want to bring to the floor this evening. And we'll give you a couple of moments. Oh, oops. Thank you. And I'll try to go from one mic to the other if I see you. And if I don't see you, then I know someone will help me. Mm-hmm. You may go ahead.
Okay,
Wait,
first of
oh,
all,
I'm sorry.
this thing needs to be
Oh,
voted.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Could you just wait one moment? The grandfather would like to say something.
Oh, the grandfather.
Good evening. My name is Charles Lyles, Sr. I just want to stand up here in support of my son. I think he represented the situation very good. I mean, the whole family feels such as he does. I myself am a retired labor leader out of Los Angeles, California. I did 4 years in the Navy during the Korean War. I spent a year up here in the Seattle area before I went to sea and went to Korea. And after I came home, I married and raised my family, and I'm very proud of my family. When, it's really a shame that something like this, my son just broke it down to you, such as it was and everything. It's not a lot more I can add to that. He did a pretty good job on laying this up. But the thing of it is the police brutality there's been many unnecessary killings like this across the United States over the past few years. Something has got to be done about it. Something has got to be done. We had 10 to 15 people in our family were policemen. I had one of my cousins was a Tuskegee Airman, Ira O'Neill. He also was owned the security company that caught the Nixon break-in. He's the one that called the FBI. We have other relatives who were just as powerful as he was. And I something needs to be done about this police unwanted killings of people. If you all can remember, what started the Watts riots was a gas company came out and threatened to turn off this lady's utilities, and she went out there and she had a butcher knife in her hands. There were several police out there at that time. The police started approaching her. She threw the knife at the police. It was a butcher knife. You know how a butcher knife would fly through the air but unweighted? It didn't. It fell to the ground. They shot and killed her at that point. And there's been many other incidents in this United States that has happened similar to that. We need to do something to put a stop to this unnecessary killing. We had, like I said, we had like 10 or 15 other relatives, my uncles or whatever, that were policemen. And they were trained how to confront people. And back in the old days, they didn't just unwantedly kill them. They would talk to them, or they would send someone out there to But this is what we need to do in this time. We need to do something about that. The police, they take training. They're not giving them the necessary training they do when you run into situations such as that. It ended my granddaughter's life. So I just want to thank all of you all and thank you for your support.
So a couple of things. Thank you so much, Mr. Lyles. And If I'm told that anybody from the family wants to speak at any time, I'm going to cede to that. So they were given first place, but if they feel they need to speak later, that's open to that. Also, a few people have come in since we started, and I'm not going to reread the entirety of the community agreements, but I do want to just remind people of a couple of things as we continue forward. We are a reminder that people are interpreting, and so we need to be slow in our remarks. A reminder that we have an order of events, which included hearing first from the family, and then I had forgotten that there were a couple of the community groups, some of the people from Solid Ground where Charleena lived, and a couple of others that we wanted to give some space to. And so I apologize, that was my error. And then self-identified women of color, self-identified men of color, and then open to the entirety of the floor. We also had, a request that people be respectful and listen and be mindful of the time.
Yeah. We want him to have respect for him.
Thank you, Mr. Lyles.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's hard in this moment where we all have so many feelings and so much anger and so much hurt. And that's why I'm just trying to remind you and ask you to stay with us as we try to do this, because it is to honor Charleena, it is to honor and respect her family, and it is to try to move us to a place where we don't have to have forums like this anymore. That is my most heartfelt wish. So there are some women from the Solid Ground community. So can you identify yourselves where you are? Okay. So may I please request if you would just let her come and speak.
She will speak right after me. Yeah.
Okay. And she is saying
Yeah,
that
she
that's
can
okay
do
with her?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that
We don't
then.
need
So
to
you
change
please.
stuff. My name is D. Charlene. I'm
Hi.
with Central Area Chamber of Commerce. And I know what's going on out here. The police is lying. They know that Charleena, my name is Charleena too, Charlene. And she didn't do that. They killed her. They came in and killed her. You can do the timing, I know it. And I dreamed it. They killed her. The police, they have a crooked pool in there. And I've been through trouble with them too. They tried to put a posse around me and strangle me. Put me up and I jumped down and bam, him right in here, grabbed the keys, locked myself up in the cell. See, and got out. Had the police, my doctor and all of them come got me out. See, I have had money, so I can do these things. But I don't take a whooping from nobody. And these cops are dirty, they're treacherous, and they're killers. And they're joining the police force to kill our people, and I'm tired of it. And I've seen a lot of killing going on here. And that girl did not call them to kill her in front of her children. Just think about that. Those people are going to have to pay for this. And we're tired of it. They were the same murderers that killed Jesus Christ. These are the same people on our police force. And we're sick of it. We're tired of being killed for nothing. Why are they killing us? Because of the color of our skin, because we're black. We're the first people. They don't come in and kill her in front of her children. That's nasty, and that's dirty, and they're dirty. They're sick people, and they're the ones that need mental health, mental treatment. My grandson joined the police force, went through the academy, did all of that. I wanted him to come and help the people and help protect the people against these police. He told me it was horrible that they put him up in the north end. And he said the way that they treat black people and the way that they treat white folks is two different ways. You folks on the city council, we elected you. And you're going to do something this time. You're not going to let this killer get away with this. You're going to do something and stop this. Else all of you are going off. You're going off. You're not going to sit there and smirk. You're going to stand up to the plate and help us and stop killing people, innocent people for nothing, killing them, killing her in front of her children. Now, how low can you get? That's what I have to say.
Oh, so I said I was going to alternate microphones, so now,
Okay.
Please.
I looked up in the dictionary today the meaning of slaughter and massacre. Slaughter means to kill in a brutal or violent manner. They slaughtered Charleena. And massacre means to injure thoroughly. They massacred the psyche of their children. What I would like to see is that these police officers know what they did was wrong. To man up, confess their sins, and not put her family through the process of this long, lengthy, and ultimately getting acquitted investigation. Do the right thing, fess up to your sins, and take your punishment.
Okay, my name is Jennifer Cobb, and I am the founder of And Justice for All. It's spelled like the movie ... lowercase a. It's a client-based advocacy organization where it works on civil and criminal legal cases. Services are free and is nationwide. And Justice for All is also an activist entity, and it addresses anything that is unjust to become just. I only thought I had 2 minutes, but I really will be brief. I want to address the officers, Stephen McNew and Jason Anderson. What the hell you tall about? Excuse me. I want to say her name. Charleena Lyles. I'm really angry. I am so angry. I've been an activist for 20 years and started in Justice for All in 2006. There is no excuse for what is going on around this nation. We have pleaded, begged, whatever, for help in the United, what I call snakes of America, AMERIKKKA. I am not saying that white people are not affected. It is usually poor white people and people of color. But predominantly, it is black people, and there is a demarcation between people of color and black people. This one has got to be the straw that broke the camel's back. And Justice for All, I kid you not, is currently working on, if you can't get help in your own backyard, meaning the United Snakes of America, we're going to go elsewhere. And we are going to include your daughter in the list of names. We are creating a database so we can, first, go to the United Nations and other places that we are thinking of. And if you don't do what you are supposed to do, then like on Facebook and all the other social medias, you're going to go viral. And you will become famous for not doing the proper thing. All we want and ever wanted, since our feet landed around 1612 in Jamestown, Virginia, as slaves, was to be treated as human beings. And we are not. We also have lynchings as well that we need to address. Lake Stevens, Washington was a lynching. We need to take care of that. And I am offering my help to you, the family. Services are free. I will give you my phone number. I am offering you my help to seek justice for your daughter. Guaranteed. We don't take no for an answer. Trust me when I tell you. Trust me when I tell you. We're not going to sweep this one under the rug. And shout out to Shay Taylor's family as well, wherever they are. Oh, one last thing. One last thing. One of my favorite persons is Vernon Johns. He was the predecessor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. over there at Dexter Baptist Church. It's a must-see movie, the Vernon Johns story. His last sermon was, "It is safe to murder Negroes." And guess what? It still is. United States condones it. We need to shame America. And Injustice for All will be one of the catalysts to do so. Thank you very much.
Okay, so my name is Janelle Hicks. So I'm going to ask of any good meeting that I attend, they always have rules about people's cell phones. So I'm going to ask my council members to put your cell phones in your bags or somewhere while we're talking about the death of this young lady. Because I just feel like it's really disrespectful, all the texting that's going on while people are speaking. So I'm going to ask my city council members to really be present and in the moment. I really need you guys to do that. And I understand this is hard to hear because it's like people are talking about you, but you were elected to these positions to make sure that police officers protect and serve. And Charleena was not protected and served by the visit she had with your office. So please put your phones away and be present at this meeting today. Because it's just, you know, this is serious and I find it annoying and disrespectful. So what I wanted to say is that I really hope that when you're here today that you're thinking about how you can change your training of police officers. You know, when they go to the firing range, they have a target that's just the body. There's no faces, there's no arms, there's no legs, to desensitize people to realize these are human beings when you go out in the field. So how are we training police officers? I heard the tape. It was about 10 seconds before they started shooting. I don't know how you could de-escalate a situation in 10 seconds. So I'm going to ask that we take de-escalation seriously and that we get some motivational interviewing training and some trauma-informed care so that we can deal with people when we go out to their homes that, you know, as the dad said, she was fleeing this boyfriend. She wasn't getting help from the police. She wasn't getting restraining orders. So we need systems that work together, link together. If your officers don't know what to do, you get a mental health team there pronto before you enter the apartment. It seems as though you had knowledge of this mental health, so-called mental health. It's yet to be determined if that's true or false. We don't have the mental health records of the police officers. We're not talking about their state. And I wish we could quit talking about this young lady's mental health in the public, because we still do have HIPAA rights. She still has rights to privacy. And so I'm going to ask that we respect that, and that in the community and wherever we go, we not talk about this woman's health history. Because nobody is talking about anybody's health history up here. We don't know your health history. So I'm just going to put that out there. And so that's what I need. And that's why I came here today, because I have a daughter that's 33 that has some challenges. And this whole thing about her having a knife, this woman's 80 pounds. I want to know where's the de-escalation training. I didn't hear anything, there were any attempts to de-escalate this situation. And I think people deserve more than a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes before you take their lives. Thank you.
So Thank you. I just want to point out we do now have a microphone upstairs, so I'm going to be alternating between 3 microphones, not 2. So please bear with me. I'm going to stay in order, and you're next.
Hi, my name is Lorna Murray. I am the downstairs neighbor of was the downstairs neighbors of Charleena Lyles. First, I want to say that a lot of people and a lot of the media has talked about things that dehumanize Charleena, and I would like to say that she was a mother first. She loved her children. In fact, she loved her children so much that we would often get into it because they were so loud up there, all the kids. And all the other kids from the neighborhood would be up there, so that was Charleena's house. There were also other times where Charleena would be calling for help throughout the time that she lived underneath me. And after hearing the audio recordings that the officers released of their ride on the way over to help Charlene on June 18th, it concerns me that they had her dehumanized and had pretty much made up their mind before they got to the home about Charleena. Their intent was never to come there to help. We know that from the audio. I also want to talk about how when the Seattle Police Department policy is that if you're trained to use the taser, you must carry one on you. And the fact that Officer McNew, when he yelled, "Tase her," to Officer Anderson, the reply was, "I don't have one." But for the fact that he left his taser in his locker, I would be able to be yelling at Charlene tomorrow and telling her kids to stay away from my car with their bikes, but instead, 4 children don't have their mother. When the officers asked me to escort 2 of Charleena's children out of the home after they had murdered Charleena, I was very disappointed in the way that the department handled the way that they treated our community. After I heard the audio of how they were speaking to Charleena and read their reports, their officer statements about the incident, I was sickened by the way they were acting like she was reporting things that she was too poor to own. In the past, before this incident, I've had the occasion where I've called the Seattle Police Department, and I actually wrote a letter to the Office of Public Accountability about the way that they treated and talked to me. So my question here today is, can we get a tangible commitment from our leaders in the city to make sure that these police officers can stop criminalizing and dehumanizing our children and other people that live in these marginalized communities so that we can work together to build a bridge going forward? Can we do that? Can we get something today? Because I just want to remind everybody that John T. Williams was shot 7 years ago by Seattle Police Officer Ian Burke. Seattle Police ruled the shooting was unjustified, and to this day, no one has been held accountable. That cannot stand in this case. It shouldn't stand in that one, but it definitely cannot stand in this one. We have a mother who's dead, we have 4 children without their mother, and we have an unborn baby that went along for that ride, and that's unacceptable.
So we're taking a person upstairs and then back down to this microphone. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alicia Ramirez, and I'm an African-American woman. And just like Charleena Lyles, I also struggle with mental illness. I have anxiety and depression, and I've been struggling with it for over a decade. And when I saw Charleena Lyles, the news that she had been murdered by Seattle police, the first thought that went through my head was, what if that's me? What if I call one day and I happen to be standing in the kitchen, because we all have knives in our kitchen, and the police decided to open fire on me? What about that? And I know Charleena can't be here right now, but I want to give a voice to women like her, that we're human beings too. We deserve to be helped and not to be murdered. And that's all I got to say.
Good evening. My name is Shalise Seacrest. I stand before you not as a candidate for Seattle City Council. I stand before you not as a leader of the NAACP or as an attorney. I appear before you as I came into this world, and that is as a black woman. And if we're going to speak truth and really truly heal, I know that there's a lot who are crying with us today. For all the black women who are able, will you please stand up? So often we go invisible. Please stand. See us. We are here. See us. We cry not just for the death of Charleena. We cry because we are dying. We cry because we are burying our children. We cry because this is impacting our community, and we're depending on a system that has failed us too often. As a black woman, I'm singling Bruce you out as a black man, Pastor Kerry Anderson as a black man, Gerald Hankerson, Kenny Pleasant as black men, Pastor Williams as black men. We need you to protect us. Find a way to change this system. Ron Ward, I'm turning to you as a black woman, asking you as a black man, see us and protect us. Fix this system. We are dying. We are burying our children. We had said earlier, insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Let's use this time to make sure we're doing this differently. Too many deaths have happened where the chief of police was not standing here crying with us, giving the assurance that she will protect me and my children. Let's do something differently. Let's do something differently as leaders of this city. Let's take this opportunity, not hiding behind the fact that we first have to do an investigation. Let your humanity show through. That you're with us and you will stand to protect us, because there's fear, there's hurt, there's anger in a system that has failed. Acknowledge that with us and be committed to changing this system. Thank you.
Back to this mic here.
Good evening. My name is Sheila Hayes. First of all, I question if the two officers that responded that fateful day had previously responded to this residence, and if so, I think that was a mistake. I also think that if one of the officers had been female, the outcome would have been a lot different. And in the future, I think that, as others have said, there needs to be a team. If they've assessed the situation and this person has had a history, have a team come, and maybe a life would have been saved. Thank you.
Upstairs, I can't see you. Okay, we're good. All right. Thank you. Downstairs.
Hello. Hello, my name is Roxanne White. I am a member of the Nez Perce Nation and the Yakima Nation. First, I want to say that my community is praying for Charleena Lyles' family, for her children, and for the community of our African American brothers and sisters. Our community has lost 5 members of different nations from Puyallup to Muckleshoot to Tulalip to Cree. At the hands of police officers, we have lost 2 of our sisters, our life givers, our mothers that were also pregnant. One of them, Renee Davis, in front of her children, 3.5 months pregnant. The police were going there on a welfare check, and they took her life. They murdered her in front of her children. I'm just here in solidarity for your community, for this community, because we have shared so much pain and atrocities and continuous genocide for 500 years. 500 years. This government, this place named America, has not served our people, both African American and Native American people. We're tired, we're angry, and we're not going to accept it no more. I really honor and respect your community, that you're able to say her name, Charleena Lyles. In my culture, we are to remain silent for 1 year. We cannot show pictures. We cannot say their names for 1 year because this is our culture. I love that you guys can say their names. And that is why I'm here, because when I say Charleena Lyles, I'm saying Renee Davis. I'm saying T. Williams. I'm talking for all of our brothers and sisters. And I wanted to say that, and I love you guys, and I'm praying for you guys, and thank you, Kashama Sawant, and everybody here, and all the people that are here. And remember that we are on Duwamish land, Duwamish territory, that until this government respects our Mother Earth, the first life giver, and then they will never respect us. Our lives matter, the women. We are sacred. We are the backbone, and we are the life givers. We are the life givers. And until they respect us and until they protect us and take care of us, nothing else will happen and change in this community. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. My name is Christina. I'm a member of Seattle Radical Women. And I have a question. What is going to be different? What is going to change? Because I've been here for over 18 years, and every time there is a police killing, they have a hearing like this, they let the community vent, and then things go back to the same. Nothing changes. Oh, I think 1 year they gave us the Office of Police Accountability, which is basically a bureaucracy that had no power over the police. So I want to know from our elected policymakers, what is going to be different this time? Because I don't see any changes. Are we going to have another hearing like this at the next police murder? You know, I think that's the way it is. For me, justice for me, I think that those police officers, instead of being on paid administrative leave, they should be fired. Fired. And any occupation, if you're a bus driver, any occupation where you kill someone, you lose your job. That's right. So, and not only that, but their pensions, they should be, not have a right to their pensions. Those pensions should go to Charleena Lyles' children. So what's going to be different? I think we need to disarm the police. You know, those of you for gun control, disarm the police. What's going to be different? Personally, I think the community, not the mayor, not the elected policy makers, I think the community needs to have control over the police. We should have the right to fire. We should have the right to hire. We should have the right to make policies on how the police are going to conduct themselves. But the way they conduct them, you know what? If those police officers are unleashed on the city of Seattle, you put every black person in danger. Yeah. But even more so, you're putting killers on the street. And this, when I read about Charleena's murder, I was angry. I was angry. Why is this happening? Why did this happen to this beautiful mother? And I could also relate because I've had several of my family members, my brother, my sister, 2 cousins beat up by the police. So that's my question. What is fucking gonna be different this time?
Me? Okay. I'm calling on my help tonight. I said I'm calling. I said I'm calling on my help tonight because something needs to happen that haven't happened before. And so that woman that calls herself the chief, she got to go because she made a mockery out of that woman. And I'm telling you right now, I heard it and it went out throughout the land. It went all the way to Atlanta. And I'm not going to tell you everything that the minds of the people are thinking right now, but somebody have wronged us. Somebody killed a black woman pregnant with child. Who do you think you are? The fool said in his heart that there's no God, but how many fools is up in here on tonight? I'm a believer. I'm from Seattle. I don't like what you did. You're a scourge of the nation, and God is going to judge you accordingly. Right now, tonight, you should have told that woman to walk. The minute you found out that she was at fault, she didn't train her officers. We don't need no more training. We need the deliverance. We need to be delivered from this evil that have come upon us, upon our people. Do you hear me? You looking at me funny, but I don't play, and God don't play with you. I'm sick and tired. Betty Lou Hamer said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. You done sat there and robbed us. You done sat there and cheated us. Yeah, we know that she died, but there's many that died before us. Did you get it? Many that died before Charleena even died. We didn't get no justice for them. You gave us kibbles and bits and bits and bits, but they're still in the graveyard somewhere because of you. Oh, Pearl. Oh, Pearl. All right, Pearl. All right.
Good evening. I want to remind the city that Mothers for Police Accountability, and that's who I'm speaking for tonight, has been working on less lethal options since 1997. Okay, 20 years. 20 years. And CIT, we were responsible for actually initiating CIT. And you know what Chief Hal Ferguson said way back then? What he said? He said, but believe me, it's not that difficult to shoot somebody, but it's more difficult not to. That's what Chief Hal Ferguson said. After the city had been held hostage for over 12 hours with the sword, Norm Stamper was finally convinced that we should go look at another model for crisis intervention. Like I say, 20 years. I'm just standing here. I am absolutely angry. Because how could he not have, because the training was there. And it's been 5,000 calls that actually ended in a good way. That's right. They didn't all end this way, but this one ended badly, absolutely badly. And as a mother and as a grandmother and a woman who's been black all my life, my birth certificate says Negro, okay? That's how long I've been on the planet. I was called a Negro, okay? So this Negro woman standing here tonight is absolutely angry because how could he go a week without the taser and the supervisor didn't notice it, okay? So what's wrong with the training, okay? What's wrong with it? How can somebody on the force that long not be trained? And Norm Stamper retired the nightstick. And if the DOJ told them they have an option, the DOJ failed us, okay? Because they get pepper spray at standard operation, okay? And the tasers was there to be able to help them to be able to de-escalate. They were supposed to have mental health training, supposed to have mental health providers. People, we adopted the model from Portland. I went to Portland. I walked the streets in Portland. We brought that model here, okay? And it became volunteer. And then under Paul Schell, he made it mandatory, but the city council was weak and they never enforced it. Never enforced it. The council does not stand up. The council don't do what they're supposed to do. Every city council has failed to make the police accountable. You control the purse strings. You control the budget. You know, and this was before Sawan got there. Sawan is a newcomer on the city council, okay? Okay, she's a newcomer, okay? Okay, well, no, she's a newcomer, okay? So let's just get real here, okay? Every city council, before she ever ran, actually never stood up to the police. You never stood up to them. You never scrutinized their budget. You could have been made a lot of changes just doing the budget. And then after David Walker's training, David Walker was mentally ill. He stole a carton of milk. But stealing in America is not a capital offense because Bernie Madoff would have he would have went to the electric chair. All right. Stealing is not a capital offense. Being hungry is not a capital offense. We don't send people to the gallows because they're hungry. We don't send people to the gallows because they stole milk. We don't do that. And on the backs of David Walker, we were supposed to make this mandatory. On the backs of the Border Guard Mitchell, he was killed by the police in 1996. He was the man that they stole the money from. You might not know about that. Okay, I know about it. We've been doing this work for 27 years. They stole the money, then they put back some money, okay? They put back $10,000. We don't know how much they took, see. So it's been a steady progression here. We have worked diligently. We stayed at the table. We didn't take our marbles and go home. We stayed at the table so that we would have training. So when a person was having a mental health crisis, somebody would be able to help them. We can all have a mental ill crisis. We can all go home. Our house could be on fire. We could all go home and have a mental ill crisis. We needed to have them trained, humanely trained, to be able to de-escalate. What no de-escalation here? Okay, they escalated. Okay, they escalated. We stayed at the table. We didn't go home. We're the only one who stayed at the table. Okay, 20 years. 20 years. We have worked for less lethal. 20 years. My oldest granddaughter is 20. 20 years. And this system failed. Ms. Lyles, I'm outraged. I want you to know I'm outraged that somebody has to be in charge of the police. Somebody has to be in charge of the purse strings, okay? And somebody has to look over the training and make sure if they're not getting trained, and if they're so scared, if they're practicing Negrophobia, he who's afraid of the Negro, they need not be police officers, okay? Okay, I'm tired of this, okay? Negrophobia. Negrophobia, Negrophobia, okay, you know, been in the dictionary since 1916, okay? It's been in the dictionary since 1916, and if you look it up today, it's still in the dictionary. It's codified. That's why they get off of killing the black man, because it's been in the dictionary for 100 years. 100 years it's been in the dictionary. So therefore, yes, you can kill a Negro because there's a word in the dictionary that helps you get away with it. It's called Negrophobia. It ain't no white phobia in the dictionary. It ain't no place for us. Okay, we got way more of the fear. Okay, we've known no safety in 500 years. No safety. The people was in the church tending to their own business with Bible study. Okay. No, we've known no safety. When they arrested the man who killed the people in Charleston AME Church, he was hungry. They took him and got a hamburger. Okay. As they say, kill a nigger, get a prize. Okay. I'ma say it. That's right. I'ma say it. I tell you. But we've been working on this for 20 years, and it failed her. And it failed her. These officers was inhumane, and the one who said he wouldn't have used his taser as he had, if he had it, needs not to be a police officer ever again. Ever again. Ever again. He lacks sensitivity. He lacks sensitivity. And you need to look at a training that officers are scared of a woman who weighs less than 100 pounds. You mean to tell me there's something wrong with the training? There's something absolutely wrong with the training if they're afraid of a lady who actually was a really small in stature. And you know, I'm going to spin this any way I want it. They say she had 2 knives. I'm going to say she had 2 spoons. I get to spend it. I got to spend it just like the police do. I get to spend it any way I want to spend it because she can't talk. They can spend it in a way. In my mind, she had 2 spoons. Thank you.
So in our request to continue to prioritize the women of color, I'm going to make that request over at this microphone on this side. You ready?
Testing. Can you hear me? Because I don't have time to be talking for nothing. I don't really want to talk too loud because I done got old nervous.
Kindergarten. We can speak in turns because number one, everybody want to speak, and so I think men's, women's, and all should come up to the mic and speak at that same time. So we got too many people's in here. Too many people. We not no kindergarten. That's what's wrong with the police for it. They be in kindergarten.
So I'm going to remind, I don't know if you were here when we started.
I was here when you
okay.
started, but I'm
so
saying, you know, it's too many people in here to do that little lineup. So that's just out calling. That's real wrong.
Okay, so I'm
That's
watching the
wrong.
line. I'm watching the line. I'm going to let this
I'm watching
My
the
name is-
speak.
and
My
we're
name
going to
is
get to
Alicia.
as many as we can. So please proceed.
Should speak when they can. Line up as men and women. It happened to a lady.
We the one being shot and killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now
We
you're
the one being shot and killed.
right now you're preventing anybody from speaking. So please let the woman speak.
You want to come on, Michael? You can come. Yeah, go ahead. Let him go ahead. Let the man talk.
No.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm not trying to start no riot. My name is Alicia Cross. I'm a former independent television producer. And I've been on, I used to have a show here in Seattle called the Emerald City Showcase. Been on 6 national talk shows as a guest. And there were always topics about racism, always racial issues. And first, I want to offer my condolences to Charleena Lyles' family. But let's remember, this is not the first time that this has happened in this city. As a matter of fact, when I was on Montel Williams in 1994 for the second time, I told him Dr. King would be rolling over in his grave if he could see the state of the black community today. And I be damned, it's 2017, and things have gotten worse for black people. When I first heard the slogan, Black Lives Matter, I said that's a lie. Because if Black Lives Matter, it would be made manifest in the black community when there was one. But now if you want to say white lives matter, Asian lives matter, that's believable because it's made manifest in their community. And as a matter of fact, black people in Seattle are on the endangered species list, okay? Let's go back. All this mess goes all the way back to weed and seed. You guys remember that? When they first ran black people out of the central area, ran them out to the street, Auburn, Federal Way, and you see black people walking all down the street downtown, no shoes on, no teeth, shoes are flapping, all up and down 3rd Avenue, but then yet you go to Jackson and walk up the hill, and you see millionaires there. Black people have been deprived in a city that you call a sanctuary city. See? And you got black people in the middle of a big old metropolitan city. You got Amazon, you got Bill Gates, you got Paul Allen, but yet black people look like they're on a slave plantation here in Seattle. As a matter of fact, this city has gone out of its way to humiliate and embarrass black people. I'm talking about black people. I'm not talking about people of color, okay? Or people from Africa either. Black people, we're in this mess all by ourselves. Because when people come here, they don't like us. And you guys keep on going around, yeah, well, come to Seattle, and you can live the American dream. Come here, because we're a sanctuary. You know, and the city council sit up. Look at how you guys looking. You got 2 imposters. You know, Sawant, Gonzalez, you came here, and you brung all the Mexicans from
the Yakima Valley. I noticed they sure got jobs real quick, didn't they? You find a formula for them. You shut up. I noticed bigotry. That's already way past that stage, baby. Let me tell you something. See, you found a formula for everybody. I noticed, I look up, and Mexicans, they got cars, got their businesses, you know, then, shut up. Then you look, and then, you look in the black, then you look at the black community, and the proof is in the pudding. And the pudding is downtown. It has to do with Charleena Lyles. It has to do with all the black people that have been slaughtered in this city. Erkman Bascom, he had a remote control in his hand. That was about 40 years ago.
Ma'am, the family is asking if you could please move forward.
And then
the Lyles family is asking that you move away from the
tell them
mic.
like it is. Okay?
The Lyles family is asking you to respect the space.
Nobody wants to really tell them like it is.
So, ma'am.
What you like to do,
ma'am,
they like to put a pacifier.
Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask
in
you to
black
please
people's
stop. Out of respect for this space, and we've heard now from the Lyles family multiple times that they are asking you to please cede the microphone to the next person.
Thank you. So we're over here to this microphone.
Hi, my name is Madison. Before I start, I just wanted to bring up the fact that I saw you two up here like during the last couple, speeches, kikiing and chopping it up. Like, I don't know, what are you guys talking about? Like, talking about getting your toes did over the weekend or what? Like, because I'm just trying to figure out what was more important than listening to the people who had the mic at that moment in time. So with that said, I hope during my speech that I have your full attention and that we're not going to be chopping it up. So let me start now. When my daughter was 4, she wanted to be a cop. She wanted to be a cop more than anything. However, after 4 years in her life of state-sanctioned violence against black bodies, she's terrified of cops. The first time she received a service dog and a prescription for that service dog, it was because it needed to protect her from the police. She was scared of the police. I'm 32. Me and Charleena, we're about the same age. Her reality is my reality. Her children's reality is the reality of my child. So I guess my skepticism comes in when people talk about the lack of de-escalation training that the police get. I by no means am a cop. I have a pre-law degree and I currently work in healthcare. In jobs in both fields, I received de-escalation training. And I've successfully de-escalated situations where clients and patients were violent, had weapons, had office items that they turned into weapons, and every situation in between. I'm not legally able to carry a firearm at work or a taser or pepper spray, but if I, a black working class, sometimes poor, sometimes not, sometimes homeless, sometimes not, single mother can de-escalate a situation that I perceive as dangerous, I cannot for the life of me comprehend that 2 grown-ass men, officers of the law, could not safely de-escalate a situation like the situation that they had with Charleena Lyles. When I have to tell my friends that if I ever die in police custody or in their presence, that I was not suicidal or angry or crazy or combative, nor did I charge at them or otherwise threaten them, then something is broken.
Go ahead, ma'am. Thank you.
Hi. I work for the city of Seattle, and I've been working with their race and social justice program for 12 years, and I am so embarrassed about what's going on. The police department became the last department to come on with the program, and that was after John T. Williams. So a group of us from affinity groups joined Canoes, the Native American group, to go talk to the police and get them started on the program. Now, these people were selected to work with us, and they were extremely hostile to us. From the moment that we walked in that door, and we told them there's a way that we have training to be done that all city employees have taken, and they're dictating to us how they're going to do the training. So, and when they did the implicit bias thing, they twisted it into their reality and not what it's really meant to be. I have to do more than talk, because I got to tell you, when I came into work on Monday, to see the faces of my fellow sisters was just horrible to witness. And I said I have to do more than just come in and have a meeting and do an event with the city employees. So my thing to step this stuff up is I'm not spending none of my money in Seattle because we are paying these people to do this shit to us. We need the Shanks in Seattle. Buy from black businesses and people of color businesses. It's gonna be hard because I work here 5 days a week, but I'm not spending another dime for my family to be treated that way. And to know that they're excusing, they have a policy where they can kill, and they have to kill a person that has a knife in their hands is very disturbing to me. I am not coming in to visit the city. I don't want my family here in this city. I will stay in the outskirts. I mean, if I can't afford to walk here and not have to worry about being harassed by the police, and I've had my situations with the police, I bet you if people of color stood up in here to say, did they have a bad encounter with the police, almost every person of color would stand up. And mine's haven't been good. I even had one where the police was able to turn the charges back on me and say the person was harassing me and stuff. So I have no respect for them. We just recently got them to come to the table because they've been missing from the table for a long time at our race and social justice table. But they still treat us like, you know, the enemy. And they just, like I said, just in the last few months, but you know, there's things that we need to do, and we need to come up with agreement, but we actually have to do stuff, and we need to take all those policies and things through that filter and fix what is wrong, because otherwise we're not doing our work, and we should not allow them to keep showing up the way they do. And the ones that show up that way, they need to be gone. They need to be removed, because not another person needs to die behind some dumb shit. Say your name, Charleena Lyles.
Okay, upstairs, please.
Hello, my name is Natasha Thornton, and first of all, I would like to say that there's no more disrespected woman than a black woman, and a black woman has already gotten up and asked the council to put their phones away, and I still see 3 phones on the table, so I think that really speaks to the climate that we're living in. Second of all, I would like to say that we, quote unquote, live in a progressive city, a sanctuary city, but in actuality, we live in the deep north. We like to give ourselves a pat on the back that we're doing such a great job, when in actuality, a pregnant black woman was killed in front of her children, and that I don't care if she had a knife. I don't care if she had mental health issues. None of that matters. All that matters is that she called the police, people who are supposed to protect and serve us, and they murdered her within, 5 minutes of arriving at her home? That's not right either. I am incredibly angry and upset, but most of all, I'm heartbroken. Every time I hear about this, my heart breaks a little bit more. And I told my dad that I was coming here today, and he's 60 years old, and all he could say to me is, when will it stop? And I don't have an answer for him. And the fact that he's becoming so beaten down that he can't even get angry anymore it just all turns into sadness isn't right either. I've lived in this city my entire life, and in the past year, I have had 3 white men tell me that racism is over and that it is no longer a problem, okay? That's obviously not true, all right? Mr. Lyles, I just want to say, I know sorry will never be enough. I know that it won't ever bring her back, but I am so proud of you that you're standing here and you're being brave in front of all these people and doing this. And there's just one last thing that I have to say. I'm biracial, and I want to say to all of our white allies here, when you hear bigotry, when you hear prejudice, when you hear racism out of your friends, your family, your mother, your aunt, I don't care, you need to stand up for us. And you need to say that's not right. You either need to tell them that it isn't right, or you need to tell them that you can no longer be around them because it isn't acceptable. Unfortunately, we cannot legislate change. We can do as much as we can, but if you don't change the mindsets of people, nothing will ever change. And that's been true since the Emancipation Proclamation. You can ban slavery, but if you don't make people see the people of color, and specifically black people, as human beings, equal human beings in their own right, nothing will ever change. Thank you.
And I got lost. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Halisha Anderson. I stand before you because I think it's important that we talk about changing the narrative. As this week has gone on, I've heard lots of things about Charleena Lyles that could or could be true. We'd say she had knives, but she didn't have knives. She was in her home. We all have kitchens. Some of us don't, right? But for her, she was with her children. She made a call on June 18th, 2017, on Father's Day, because she was scared. Is it real? Now the narrative is no one came into her apartment. Someone has allowed the news to report that now there was a camera in the hall, and there's no one that came to her apartment on the day that she called for help. She was a mom. She was a daughter. She was a friend. She was a neighbor. She was a part of this community. And right now, we're calling for an independent, for not the police, because we know their work. We see it every day. We hear about it. As you can acknowledge, there's lots of pain in this room. I've heard some sighs as some folks, their message starts, and because of the anger and their experience that they've had, I think our message sometimes goes a little left because we want to make sure you know that personally, we've all been affected and touched by personal experiences. We can talk about our family members. We can talk about our friends. We can talk about folks that have been impacted in a deep way. I also read that CPS was involved. CPS, as we know, we know their work too. I won't talk negative, but we know their work. And there's nothing wrong if she had mental health crisis on that particular day, to go back to 2 weeks ago when they came and they helped her. Where were those police officers that day? Why didn't they send someone that was familiar to her, that she could recognize their faces, that she knows their genuine sincerity, that they all want to leave that apartment? They entered, and if she was in crisis, why didn't they back out? She called them. There was no force. She was not a criminal. She was a mother with her children right next to her. So if nothing else, for the rest, while we go through and figure out what's going to happen next, Charleena wasn't failed. The system is working just as it has. There's many of us and many names that we can add to the list. We have a database. Black people have a database with men, women, and children on there. You right now have an opportunity as her children, the ripple effect of her death, the fact that they were in that room. None of us were in that room. Those children were present, and they sat next to their mom. as they watched her take her last breath. Those are two men in suits. Police, do they know what that means? Did they come to help them? In all of this, I dug deep and I saw, oh yeah, they were fearful for the children. Well, we know the answer to that. So here's the opportunity to make the difference. Seattle has made many differences on many topics. And with all that's going on in this world, let's make it about right here, Seattle. Charleena Lyles' life was taken way too early, and she called for help. So for us as blacks that are still left on this earth, who can call and make a call, do we make that call or don't we make that call? That's what we're left with. Do we actually make that call, and how will it end? Because right now, as we learn, everyone wants to go home and be safe. Well, Charleena Lyles, her last breath was June 18th, 2017. Let's respect the family, and guys, really, the Lyles family, to sit through all this, and listen and hear the pain and the hurt in this room. When you walk out of here, you're walking out of here changed. You can't unhear what you've heard. You can't unsee what has been seen.
Can you hear me? Yes? Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, my name's Fahima Mohammed. I'm Somali and Muslim. I'm the founder of the Black Students United for Excellence Club and the Muslim Student Association at my school. My father is the mayor's senior strategical advisor and has been involved with Seattle politics since 2008, around when McGinn was elected. So I'm very familiar with how these things work and how the council works and how Seattle politics works. And I've been to many of these seminars and these community outreach things, and I've spoken many times, and I know how this works. I see no change that is happening within the Seattle Council and the Seattle Police Department. These men and these women are killing immigrants, they're killing black people, they're killing all sorts of marginalized people, and it's not okay. And it's time that the Seattle Council, the people who make the laws of Seattle, the people who have power to do something, if you see something's wrong, use your power, use your position that all of these citizens and all the citizens of Seattle have elected you for, and actually do something. Okay. I just want to keep it short, and I also want to say that all of these notes that you're taking, to actually do something with them and actually do something with what you've heard today and what you've seen today. And I also want to give my condolences to Charleena's family. I'm very sorry of what happened to your daughter. She was murdered. Oh, another thing, the police training needs to change. Why do we give these men and women guns and lethal weapons if they don't know how to use them correctly? Okay? Charleena called the police for them to help her, not for them to kill her, especially in front of her children, and that's just not okay. And for that, something needs to change. Okay? We think that Seattle is so liberal, and Seattle is a great place to live, and it's not like down south, but everywhere is the same. Black people are still being targeted, and it's not okay. So I just want the Seattle City Council and all of the members in it to use your position that you were elected for, that you were elected meaning that the people chose you, for good use. And not to just be useless and push these kind of situations under the rug, because I've seen that happen many times. And I'm very familiar about what this council does and how the system and the City of Seattle and Seattle Council works. And I want something to actually happen, and not for it to just be thrown under the rug and wait for everyone to just forget about it. Because her family isn't going to forget about it. And this is going to happen again, and then we're going to have these kind of town halls and seminars all over again. And then what? No change has really happened. Okay? So I want you to use what you've heard today, use all the past situations, like Charleena, like Hamza Warsame, who was pushed off a building in Capitol Hill, and it wasn't even marked as a hate crime. It was marked as a suicide. He could have graduated from Rainier Beach this year. He was a great student. And his life wasn't taken seriously by the council since there's no justice that's been served ever since. I want justice to be served for all people who have suffered from police brutality, who have suffered from hate crimes, who have suffered from unjust deaths. You guys have power. You guys need to use it correctly and use it for the people of Seattle. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I believe, so there's somebody upstairs. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Sophia. I don't want to be on cameras or anything, but I'm one of the residents at Rattler. One of the reasons is because the way you guys betrayed us, the things that you said about the people that lived there. You said they were homeless, they were distressed, nothing but negative, but that's far from the truth. You got single mothers going to college, getting their bachelor degree to better their families. You got mothers who work full-time and take care of their kids, who are active within their communities. I came from Africa when I was 5 years old. I remember watching through my window, watching an army, a full army, just shooting. We had a war. And Sunday morning, my two boys, my 8 and a 10-year-old, watched through our own window a whole SWAT team coming in there with their big guns. And my son said, "Wow, are we in war?" And we watched the whole thing, and it just took me back when I was 5 years old. This is one of the main reasons why we came to America, is to escape a war. But at least in my country, we are trained to defend ourselves against our enemy, and we know who our enemies are. But these are the people that's supposed to protect us. America's supposed to be one of the greatest countries in the world. That's why my parents brought us here. So my question to you is, what do I tell my kids, because they're black, that they're not equal? They're not looked as equal as everybody else because they're not white. And their color is not going to change. They're going to remain black and proud to be black. And America just doesn't have a place for black people. And that's how we feel. I mean, you guys doing a good job, because since young age, our children are watching this, witnessing this, so they grow up with fear. Their self-esteem is taken away, and everything else. So now you got almost 50% of our men are in prison. You got single mothers trying to raise. Yes, and everybody was saying, where are the fathers? Well, the fathers majority of them are in jail, or they're afraid to do anything because they're also going to get killed. So the next time something happened, I know within the community where I live, now we're questioning, looking at ourselves, saying, okay, so does this mean we're not going to call the police if something happened? Because they might kill us if we're calling them for help. And that's how we're feeling. So we just want to know, we don't know what to do. So do I just pack my stuff and take my kids to Africa because they have a better chance of being alive than here in America? So that is my take on that. And also one last thing, no matter what, I know some community are saying, oh, wasn't she troubled? Didn't she have a criminal background and all of that? But it don't matter where you come from, what your race is, whether you're white, black, Asian, it doesn't matter. Nobody deserves to be shot. While children are present in the home, even if there was no kids in the home, she didn't deserve this at all. Nobody deserved this. Thank you.
My first question is, where is Kathleen O'Toole? If she gave
Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me. We had a process we agreed to, and I am a black woman, and I think I am able to speak prior to this gentleman, and I would hope to have his support in that regard. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. My name is Rose Jackie Floyd, and I'm going to say that black women have a resilience, and your daughter had to have had a resilience to have survived even the short years she lived, to have been black, to have been young, to have been living with a mental illness or with an illness tied to so much bias. And I do appreciate the process we agreed here tonight too, because we as black women are first in all the suffering. And so at least in this space, when we're talking about a black woman being killed, may we not have some advancement. May we not have some support from everybody to have our voices be heard. And if for some reason you are not heard tonight because we don't have enough time, is that not a small compensation to give to a black woman who is first on everything that's not right? So I appreciate to have a little bit of affirmative action on my behalf tonight. So what I want to share here is that every time, my whole life since I was a teenager, I have been summoned to events like this around the death of my people since I was a teenager. And there's plenty of people in here. And one of the things I see as a tragedy is that we become also familiar with the suffering of black people and our burdens. But we don't talk about how white privilege and white influence it's integral to this. And I want to share this with the panel up here because most of the people up here may not know what it is to live, to be poor, to be black, to be female, to be a lesbian or whatever. But you know something about white privilege, whether you're personally aware of it or not. I have the good fortune to be connected to a family that's biracial, and I have a sister-in-law who for many years of her life was challenged with mental illness and drug addiction. She had scores of encounters with police in the Seattle, King County area throughout her addiction. Not one time did I or my white family members ever have a fear that she would be killed in any of those encounters with police. In fact, we were happy for those encounters, because those encounters became point of entry into hospitals or into treatment. Not one day did we ever have a fear that she would become victim and murdered by the people she called for help. So this is white privilege and influence operating in our society. She was walking around in the world blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and probably had more outrageous behavior than Chandra ever had. Charleena, than Charleena ever had. She probably did, struggling with her circumstances, she probably, and why was that? Because those officers, white and not white, saw somebody whose wedding they could have gone to. They saw somebody's birth they could have been at. They saw somebody whose graduation they could have been at. And they wanted to give that person a break. And so maybe she would make it another day. That's what racism operates, how it operates in this equation. I miss my sister-in-law. She lost her battle with addiction, but she never was at risk of being killed by the police. The police I was awakened in bed with my partner many nights with officers calling us about my sister-in-law somewhere in King County. Awakened. and glad to get the call. Getting in a car, driving to calm down an out of control situation. Where was that caring for Charleena? Where was it? Where was it? Why did nobody see somebody whose graduation they would be at? Why did nobody see somebody's wedding they might be at? Why did nobody see somebody's childbirth they might be at? Institutional racism, no expectation, cheapening of the lives of black women. That's why. So as uncomfortable as you might be, listening to stories here that you may feel unconnected to, you are connected to it. And you are connected to it in the way I am connected to in a biracial family that is living in their bubble of security. And your challenge is to walk and do your job in a way that realizes that other people are living a very different life than you will ever have to encounter. And it's putting them at risk. And it's putting their children at risk. And I'm here today because the fact that Charleena was killed the way she killed, my life has been cheapened substantially. As a black woman in King County, my life is worth less today because of what happened to Charleena. It's your job to get the criminal justice system involved here. That a life has been taken under circumstances that are questionable in this community, and accountability must be held. And if my life means anything, the people who took this woman's life will be held account. They will be held account for it. And it shouldn't be done, and it should be done hastily, quickly, and with great intention, and without all the justifications that we all as black people have to wander through in order for you to believe that our lives have value. And you have stories, every one of you have stories of second chances of white folks who do things that aren't right, who live to see another day, who live to have a good life. We're the people that get to have to be right almost 100% of the time. Otherwise, our lives are wrecked. Okay, but you're living in that world where you know who in your family could have went downhill for that moment of indiscretion. And Charleena was walking around with many layers that in this society says, you do not matter. And that's why we're all in this room today. And I'm working on, I don't want my grandson to be in this room again like I am. And if you don't do something different, that's exactly what's going to happen. Another generation will be standing up here venting about somebody's life taken due to racism and marginalization because you didn't have the courage to do anything.
So she reminded me of our community agreement when I was about to slip. And so here's where we are. It is 8 o'clock, and our time to wrap up was within about a half an hour. So here's what that means, that I want to, make sure that the women of color who wanted to speak have the chance to speak. And so one of the things that it means that we made that agreement is that other people might not get to speak. So there are other ways that you can reach out to your city council, right? You can write to them, you can call the office, you can come to meetings. But what I want to do is, I don't know if there's any other, yeah, I see you. Are there other, well, that's what we agreed to. So are there other women of color? I don't know if all the people standing against the wall are in line to speak, or if you're just, okay.
You made that rule.
So.
Madam,
okay, I'll get there in a minute.
Michelle, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to note that on the agenda, it says that we had reserved some time for council member comments at the end that were supposed to start at about 8:10 p.m. And I'd like to, in the spirit of sharing this space and with you all, and to allow an opportunity for us to hear from more members of the community, I just want to ask for permission from my colleagues and from you all to cede that time and that space so that you all can have more opportunity to talk.
So what she's saying is instead of the city council members each doing 2 minutes, we continue to take the people who are lined up. So is that all right with you?
What about the men?
So you do, okay. So,
I ain't heard nothing.
so then your preference is, because if your preference is to have the chance for them to give some comments, then we're going to have to, so that means we're only going to get to hear from a few more people from the audience. So, okay, so hold on, we still have about 10 minutes then. So what I'm going to ask is, if people could really keep it as short as possible, and if there are some women of color who are in line, then please come forward, and we're going to do as much as we can, and then still have the opportunity for the council to speak, because I felt like the message I got loud and clear was you do want to hear from them. Okay. All right, you have confirmed that, so please come quickly forward. Yeah.
That's not fair for the men's. What about the men's?
I understand.
What about the men's? What
Okay.
about the men? What about the men speaking?
All right.
What about the men speaking?
If you yell, I can't answer
You
you.
ain't doing that.
So we had that conversation in the beginning, and when I asked everybody if they agreed, people said yes. So that's what happened. And you were here at that time. And one of the things that the sister just said a moment ago was that
You just like them polices then.
so go ahead, we're continuing.
My name's We're wasting time. We're wasting time. Okay. My name's Char Velasquez.
Time out.
My name's Char Velasquez.
So we can't continue. We cannot continue. I mean, we're not even going to get to hear from the council if you're going to yell over me. So I couldn't hear you because you were yelling. Okay.
That.
Yeah, so first of all, I offered up these community agreements and I asked everybody if they agreed, and everybody agreed. And so all I'm doing is fulfilling what you all agreed to do. And I'm also going to take a quick moment of privilege as a black woman and say, we usually don't get to speak. We often do not get to speak. And so we are asking you to give us that opportunity. So, okay, but you are speaking. So here's where we are. If you want to have the chance to hear from the council, then I need to give a couple more women this opportunity to speak, and then you can hear from the council, and then we're going to close and figure out what the next steps are. So that's where we are.
My name's Char Velasquez, and at our apartments, most people called her Alina, probably because we were getting her name wrong. But I want to talk to you all more than them, because this has happened so many times. And the one thing that our government and our president and our councils fear is us, because see, power's in numbers. So I'm talking to all of you, because the only way to stop this is if we stop dividing each other through color, race, and gender. We are one. We are all one. We are brothers and sisters, and we're not doing anything in love. And that's why this is happening. So if all of you would stop fighting each other and stand together, we could stop what they're not doing, because they're not doing their jobs. So together, if we unite, that's where they fear us. We could overthrow a president who's caused division if we stood together. They fear us. We marched and stopped traffic. They fear us. Let them fear us and stand together in love and stop dividing each other. Stop with it's all lives matter. We all matter. We all matter. We have to stop dividing each other. They want us to be like this. They want us. Stand together.
So we're to this microphone. We're to this microphone.
Yes.
So there's a woman of color who's waiting to speak.
I want to give deference to my sister with the baby first.
Okay.
Thank you, Nikita.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please go.
So, is it okay? So my name is Joy. I'm Lena's neighbor and also her friend. I knew Lena personally, and I'm a mother of 5 children. And that officer that murdered Charleena has been at my door before. And I just want to say it's very important. I feel compelled to just let people know who do not know Lena personally. Lena, she just had her baby. I think the baby's maybe 10, 11, 12 months. She left the hospital a day after having a C-section because she had to come home and mother her children. And that shit is stressful. She had problems with the school because she had to mother her children and all of that. So when they call her crazy, when they call her that say that she had mental issues, it's not even that they make you crazy like this. All of this shit, being a single parent takes a toll on you. And I love Lena. I just felt compelled to let people know. I don't want people to, when they hear Charleena's name, they talk about mental illness and all of that. No, squash that. She was a mother who loved her children, and she put one foot in front of the other just to get by. And I just feel compelled to let you all know that.
I'm going to model one more thing. I'm light-skinned, so I'm also going to give deference to my sister over here.
My name is Shanita Smith, and as I was walking up, I saw it was a young man that was painting a photo of Miss Charlene and her children. And when I saw her photo, I saw me. Because I saw her, but I saw a reflection of me and my 4 kids. And as you said, being a single mother, it takes a toll. But the thing of it is how can you protect if you don't connect? And what I mean by that is this here, as far as a nation, we have officers from one end to the next where lives are being taken. And as you say, yes, black lives matter, but also all lives do matter. Because it's consistent that there is a force that is taken that shouldn't even be taken. And when you talk about mental illness, that's why there is no such thing as normal. No, ma'am. There is no such thing as normal because I guarantee you, let something happen in your life and see how your mental illness happen. Whether it's regardless if you're the stress of losing a loved one or the stress of having to pay a bill, money that you don't have. But the sad part about it is that a lot of our officers walk into situations where the situation is already prejudged. Because as you walk in a situation, you may have seen a woman that stood there and said, okay, she's on welfare. She having sex, having all the kids. Because as black women, this is how we're judged. You go into the doctor's office in a dental appointment and you got more than one kid, everyone stares at you because you're signing up 4 of them. 5 of them, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But you know what? And even in that, you see where there's even prejudgment in our servicemen, but not knowing the backdrop of the story. Everyone has a backstory. Everyone got a backdrop. And so when you walk in a situation, how can you protect something that you don't connect to? When you watch and you see on TV and you believe what you see is what black women are. And it's far from the truth. Much of it is an art. that's being pointed out and being prejudged because you dance a little fast and they jiggle a little more. Didn't build it? Talk to God. Because the way I'm shaped, because the way my hair curled, because the way my nose spread, the way that my lips bend when I smile, it's been hated over generations upon generations. And I'm not just talking about just black people. I'm talking about even our natives. I'm talking about all our people who are prejudged. And then our servicemen are coming to come and protect or try to service us, and you don't even know me. You're afraid to touch my hand because you don't even know, you ain't nothing. I live in Charleena, where is a low-income housing development. Not because I choose to live there, because it was handed to me. Because let me explain what I mean by handed to me, and I'm sorry, I'm going to let whoever else needs to speak. I didn't choose poverty. Poverty chose me. Thank you. But in that development, I have been able to go to school, to get my certification as a chemical dependency, my associate's degree, my bachelor's degree. I've been able to write a book, I Am Beautiful, The Evolution of Beauty. But because you come into my neighborhood and you know that it's a low-income establishment, you already have counted me out. So I think that if you kill, you should also heal. Our policy, our police servicemen, if you take a life, you should serve that family.
Yes. That's the native way.
Because then, before you pull a trigger, you'll make sure, are you sure you want to look into the face of the family that you're taking their family member away? Are you sure that that's the person that you want to service? So if you kill, you should also be able to heal. You are now to be a service to that family because they're a community too. Thank you.
So I want to thank you for holding a hard line. I have some practical questions that I would like our council to answer since you all be getting 2 minutes each. The first is when we think about, I read in an article today, one of the reasons why Chief O'Toole, do you mind lowering that just so I can see their eyes? One of the reasons why Chief O'Toole is not here is because she said there's an investigation happening and she cannot answer questions. And I understand that as a legal matter, but what confuses me is you can release video footage to try to belittle the victim, but you cannot come answer community questions. It cannot be one or the other. If you can release some evidence, then you should be able to talk about all evidence. The second question I have is, even if Chief O'Toole could not come and answer questions, why is it that y'all and the mayor cannot compel her to at least come and listen to the community that her and her force purport to serve? My next question is anyone from the Office of Professional Accountability in this space? If you are, please raise your hand. How can we trust an agency that is supposed to investigate police that will not come sit with the community that you all know has distrust for the process? My next question. While there are purportedly going to be some civilians involved in OPA, we know that police investigating police does not work. We also know that our communities don't trust police. So why would we talk to police about police to have police investigated? You all need to drastically change that process. And Lorena, I'm talking specifically to you because your office was over that legislation, and I know that we had to sign letters to get you to push it through. Why are we negotiating justice on something that we know by evidence, by video, by claim, by history is a problem? Why do we have to negotiate for more? This is not political. This is justice. My last question. I sat with members of the CPC last week. And I'm emotional because I just watched my little sisters tell y'all about their experience of racism that they should not be able to articulate so well. A fear of police and a fear of the institution. Your children, and I'm speaking specifically to the white members of the council, your children cannot do that as well. They actually have to be taught about racism. Our children learn it in their everyday lives. But in sitting with the CPC, what I learned was the legislation that did get passed, and we thank you for voting on it, will not go into place until Judge Robart okays it, and will not go into place till it gets past the police union. Which means that right now our community sits in a gray area of absolutely no protection. So what I want to know is, what are you all going to do given the murder of Charleena, John T. Williams, Jay Taylor? There's a whole list. The 3 young people, there were 3 people killed in our region by cops in the last 8 days. So this isn't just a Seattle issue. What are you gonna do regionally? Considering that the displacement in Seattle is pushing us to the far reaches of places that are not under consent decree, what will you do regionally? Because the displacement in this city is your fault as well. But what are you going to do to ensure that that legislation gets okayed faster? Will you go to Judge Robart, Lorena, and ask him to read it and consider it in this next week? Will y'all, the rest of the council, make the same? We need you to lobby to get this legislation pushed through because our babies this summer have no protection. Our black men who did not get to speak have no protection. And we have no assurance. We have no assurance that any of that will happen. The last thing I want to say is, I don't trust police to investigate police. And y'all should not either. Y'all should not either. We need to see civilians included in the process. The Community Policing Commission needs to give technical assistance to that process. And we need to have transparency in it. You all need to hold regular meetings accounting for what is or is not happening and be willing to answer those questions with Kathleen O'Toole present and her boss, the mayor. Where is the mayor?
Sir.
I'm gonna be short because I'm male, but I'm gonna talk because I'm black. So I don't know any of you guys on that table. Like, I've only met Charleena Lyles. I've never met anybody else. Like, where are you in black communities? Like, where the fuck are you? Like, you've been nowhere. Like, I've been there. You have not been at the events. Where? I don't know your names. Like, you're not in black communities. Be there for your city that you say you support for. Be there for the city that you want to counsel for. Be there. You are not there. I don't know who you are.
Okay. So there's I had said before that if a member of the family, again, wants to speak, that would be permitted. And I understand that this member of the family wishes to speak, and then we need to move to the council because you said you wanted to hear from the council. And so I'd like to, I need a microphone for.
I want to speak.
For the family member, because, and I'm sorry, as I said before, everybody's not going to get a chance to speak. And I know many of you lined up and hope to speak, but I said the family members would have a priority, and then we also have to get to the council.
Well, my brother was killed in 2015, so I'd like to speak, please.
Okay.
Say, man, I am the same brother. Yeah. Yeah. What I was saying to you, and now say it publicly, is that we were trying to give black women an opportunity to talk. And if we didn't get to talk, then, we'll get to talk later. And so all this controversy of everybody hollering and screaming is not cool. And we're going to have another meeting. This is just the beginning. It's not the end. So I think you'll get a chance. So what I wanted to do was I wanted everybody in this room, minus black women. If you're already standing, I guess you're standing. But I wanted everybody else in this room to stand up besides black women for a second. Could you do that? And for all my sisters that are still seated, I just wanted to, it's a hard job. I can just imagine how black women feel in this city with a multitude of things going on. And so I wanted all the rest of us, just for a moment, to honor them. They're sitting down. Could we're all standing. Can we just give them an ovation? And that's it.
Yeah, my name is Don Alexander. I'm a cousin, from Los Angeles and here too. And I was asked to close it out. Can you hear me now? Yeah. I was asked to close this out because maybe some of the folks up there remember me. Who the hell knows? Some of you folks back here might. Who knows? But if those of you who have been speaking, I mean you ladies, and you gentlemen who have been hollering and screaming about your voices being heard, there is something you can do if you have the gall to do it, because you're talking about you want to hear your voices. These people up here, they may or may not do something. I don't know what they might do. I know what they haven't done. But I also know what you folks haven't done. You sit here and you come out to these meetings, you're fabulous, you show your faces, you allow your tonsils to work. But for some reason, and I think I figured it out, but I don't want to admit it because it's painful. Some of you folks just don't believe in walking. You don't believe that you can influence power to do something that you know they should do. Some of you don't vote, but what the hell, it's all right. But if you want something from these people are politicians. And if you think you're going to get something from them by sitting out there and smiling and hollering and yelling, that ain't going to happen. You have to go and knock on their doors, and if they don't open them, put your foot in it and knock the damn doors down. And if you're not ready and willing to do this, all of this other stuff that you're doing, this showing up at these fabulous to-dos, some of you saw it, You know, you end up wanting the cantaloupes and the watermelon, fried chicken. But what about asking these people to listen to you and expecting them to do that? Why in the hell should they? Why would they listen to you when you're not doing anything to make them listen? Knock on their doors, knock their doors down, sit in, cross the streets, close down the jobs. Tell these people that if they are sponsoring racism, that you are going to sponsor freedom. And if you're going to do that, and only if you do that, are these people going to listen. I'll tell you what, I'll bet you $1 to a dime, and well, I'm putting up the dime. But if you get to these folks, they'll get to the folks that they need to get to because that's what they need to do to stay in office. And they like staying. Do you realize that the city of Seattle pays more to these people than they do to any other government entity in the state other than the governor? These people are powerful, but they are powerful when they want to be. They're powerful for Bill Gates. But if you think that your mouth and your actions and your ability to make your hands into a fist, if you think that that can't be done, then the hell with it. It's not going to work anyway. But if you have witnessed history and know that the only way to get power to react is with power, then you are going to knock on them. You're going to get up off your rusty dusties, leave this room, and have something in mind when we call you to go out tomorrow morning, to go out tomorrow and go to the schools like what, Garfield closed down so they could, those 18, 17-year-old children could walk for freedom, and you people sit on your rusty dusty and talk about the police. Hell, the police doing their job. Why don't you do yours? Bye.
So I feel like the family member has spoken, and that is an appropriate last word from the public. And I apologize because I know that there are more people who had something they really wanted to say, but we can't get everybody in this one time. So many powerful words have been spoken here already, and I'm not trying to negate what anybody else would have said, but many, many powerful words have been spoken. I feel like clear pain has been expressed, anger has been expressed, hurt has been expressed, but also direction has been given to the City Council. Questions have been asked of them, and strong suggestions have been made to them. So you have spoken, and that is so important, and I'm grateful for it. So I'm going to start at that end, and I think it's O'Brien down there at the far end, and we'll work our way back to Councilmember Gonzalez, who will close us, and now we can hear some comments from them. And as we did when you all were hearing from each other, I'm going to request and remind you still of the agreement that we're going to listen and respect and be mindful, because you said you wanted to hear them speak, so let them speak and hear them.
You be mindful that they violated 1962 key conspiracy. All of them. They don't want me to talk, but I talk long.
Explain. Oh. And the council members have. So the council members have 2 minutes each. We're going to work our way from that end to this end and then close. Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Lyles and family. I am so sorry for what happened to your daughter, and I know that that's just words, and I have the power to act. And I know that we've been working hard on this, the good people have, and yet this still keeps happening, and it's not right. I'm sorry. I think the police chief and the police department should be here. They should. I acknowledge there's some questions and things they may not be able to comment on, but there are other things they can, and at a minimum, they can be here and listening. Same for the Office of Police Accountability. As a straight white man, I have a lot of privilege. My interactions with police are not what I heard about tonight. My 2 teenage boys are white. Their interactions with police are not about what I heard tonight. I've never feared for their life or safety, but I know their friends who are black do. And it's not fair and it's not right. I have an obligation and a commitment to you to continue to work on what I can do to make that system better. And I appreciate you all being here to share your stories with me. I'll tell you that if you come knock on my door, I will open it. I will also commit to come out to meet you wherever you want to meet. For the people who spoke tonight and want to speak more, for the people who didn't have a chance to speak tonight, I want to continue to hear from you and hear how we make this better. I am happy to sign a letter to Judge Robart to ask him to move swiftly, or any other strategies you have. Thank you.
Thank you, sisters and brothers, for especially to those who spoke, but also everybody who's here in solidarity with Charleena and every black, brown, and poor person who is targeted systematically by the police department, not just in Seattle, but nationwide. My condolences to Charleena's family members. I can only imagine what you're going through right now, and it is deeply appreciated that you're here despite the grief, personal grief, family grief that you're feeling. And I also wanted to let Charleena's family members who are here that just before the hearing, I had the opportunity to speak to 2 of your family members on the phone, and that I want to remain in touch with you, and I ask you to let me know, my office know, if there's any way at all that we can help. But moving to the question of justice, what we heard time and time again in this hearing today, and what we've been hearing for years, and as others have said, this has been a decades-long issue and it's only getting worse, is what is actually going to change. And that is where I think my role as an elected representative of Seattle's working people comes in, as somebody who's seriously fighting against racial injustice. I want us to know, as people who are joined together in our fight for social justice, that we, first of all, we won this public hearing only because we've been demanding it as a movement. When our brother Che Taylor was killed last year, I was, and the community with me, was demanding a public hearing. That never happened. Most of the council and the mayor turned a deaf ear towards that. But the fact that we got a public hearing this year is a sign that we are having an impact. However, I join everybody who said that Chief O'Toole should be here. I demanded that Chief O'Toole should be here. And when I heard from the council members in charge of this committee and from Chief O'Toole that she would not be here, I sent another letter yesterday saying this is not good. You should be here because a woman has been killed at the hands of police officers that report to you. She sent me a letter saying today that my request to her reflects a disappointing level of ignorance in SPD policies and clear disdain for investigatory process. I think the disdain is by the chief towards the community. Last Tuesday,
Savant, can we please continue?
Last Tuesday.
Okay. All right.
Last Tuesday, I sent 9 questions to the SPD. Please take a copy of it if possible from the table outside. I sent 9 questions to Chief O'Toole and the SPD about their policies and procedures and why Charleena's life was lost. I still haven't heard back on those questions, and I urge the SPD to get back to me. I'll finish soon. I do think we are all demanding not just a space to grieve, which absolutely is necessary, but we are demanding actual change. So I think that what we really need to go towards is civilian oversight bodies that have full powers over the police. But as a step towards that, I have a petition. Already close to 2,000 people have signed it. I urge everybody to sign it. This petition demands that the mayor and the city council appoint an independent community-based investigation team to investigate Charleena's death, because we know that police investigating the police is not working. So I would urge the council members who are here to say openly whether they support such an independent investigating team or not, because that's the first step.
Thank you. I want to share what I heard tonight from you. First off, an early statement from a testifier was the statement that we need to shame America. I think we're already shamed. I've heard that the public wants us to stop focusing on the mental health of Charleena. I've heard that we need more ways to humanize the training of officers. We need to have de-escalation training that is focused on situations that happen very quickly, where there's not a lot of time to act. I've heard concern and anger.
This is the time for the council members to speak, please.
I've heard anger about comments by SPD. I've heard anger from speakers that SPD made comments that Charleena was too poor to own the things that she was reporting as stolen. I've heard you ask me to acknowledge the fear, the anger, the sadness, and that there's injustice in asking you to depend on a system that has failed you for generations or is working as designed, depending on your perspective. And I've heard you say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And so what I am pledging to you is to work on finding a new way of doing things so that we actually get different results. The council has not only sent on the 9 questions that Councilmember Sawant named, but we've also sent on 34 questions, and part of this hearing is designed to collect additional questions to share with SPD and the OPA to include in part of their investigations. I've heard you ask me to use my power on the council to change what is happening, and that is what I pledge to do. I will use the power that I have on the city council to change what is happening today in our city. I've heard you ask what you need to do. Okay, well, what I said I would do is I would use the power that I hold on the city council to make a change, to figure out how we proceed with the investigation of Charleena's death in such a way that we're doing something differently than what we have been doing.
So before we go to the next council member, you guys wanted to hear from them, so let them speak. You might, whether you like what they say or not, please let them speak because you asked for them to have it. So 2 minutes each, continuing down the line.
To Charles. To Charles and Big Charles and Little Charles, I'll say it's an unnatural sequence of events to outlive your child or your grandchild, particularly at the hands of violence. Being a father and a grandfather, I don't know if I could survive that. And I'm hopeful that the love you see actually in this room and the love around you and the faith is what keeps it all together. I realized I've known some of your family members most of my life. I'm hoping Michael doesn't tell a few secrets he has on me, because he's got a few on me. You telling them all. She's changed this city. If I were killed, I'd be lucky if I got a fourth of these folks to show up. She was loved. She was loved. She was loved. I think at the end of our lives, the historians would look at this period of our life in 2017 as what I called an era of justifiable anger. Justifiable anger. I know many of you have seen the documentary 13th by Ava DuVernay. In there, she talks about race and justice and mass incarceration, the militarization of police violence. We are living in times where I think all these folks up here are good people. I'll defend each one of them, that they will spend countless hours trying to figure out, looking at her life for solutions. We're going to introduce a law in a few weeks in Councilmember Gonzalez's committee. It's going to be one of the unprecedented laws that we've drafted. It's actually a racial profiling bill, if you will, that talks about if race is a factor, then the public should be able to pursue that and have standing. Right now, you'd have to go under a federal law or a state law. We introduced it several months ago, and we're going to introduce that and tee that up. Now, you know the biggest tragedy, and I know some of you guys, I make you go into 2 minutes. I'm going to wrap up. You know the biggest tragedy in my mind is this is tearing the city apart. And Charleena is not here to defend herself. And that's why I've been pushing for camera technology, because I want to know. I got to tell you, I grew up with strong black women in my life. It started with my grandmother. It continued with my wife. And let me tell you something, my daughter is a handful. They are resilient. They are beautiful. They are strong. We will not forget your granddaughter, your daughter. We're sorry that those two lives were taken. Our prayers are with you.
I want to echo the comments of many of my colleagues and express my sincere condolences to the family. My name is Rob Johnson. I represent the area where your daughter, granddaughter, and relative was killed. And I live about 2 miles away. I've got 2 6-year-olds and a 4-year-old at home. We live right on 65th Avenue Northeast, where a lot of those emergency responders come. And when those emergency responders come speeding past our house, my daughters ask me every time, is everybody okay? And my answer is always, I'm sure the folks who are going to help are going to be there, and they're going to be there on time. And in this case, the system failed. And I was heartbroken to get the news. While we continue to work to break down institutional racism in all departments within the city, including the police department, I remain focused on the critical needs that have been identified by those folks that are living in and around the community of Magnuson Park, which include identifying ways to support others in similar situations to prevent this from ever happening again, to build those protections through connections that folks talked about today, which has got to be so much more than just with officers, but also with each other and within community. And I want to say thank you to Gordon McHenry and the folks at Solid Ground and all the folks who came out here tonight. I will continue to work hard to provide solutions, to identify the support that we can offer as a city to make your lives better and to make the lives of all of our community members better. Thank you.
Reverend Kelly Brown, when you first started, I'm over here. I'm Sally Bagshaw. Thank you. Thank you for what you started off, which was you asked for transformation. You asked us to really hear from this group. And I want to say that of all the public meetings I've attended in the last 8 years, I have never heard more passion, more anger, more articulate fear expressed. And to the family, Charleena Lyles is a name that we now know in our city. And Charlie, thank you for your courage of stepping forward, all of you in the family who are here today. I heard some things that I've never heard before. For example, how can you protect us if you can't connect with us? And I know that the woman who said that is sitting over, was standing over there, but I just want you to know from me that I heard that, and that transformation, I am not the same person who's going to be leaving here as the one that walked in this door. I heard things from you tonight that you expect more from us. You expect more from our police. You expect more from our system, from housing. This is what I pledge to you that I will do. I'm going to be working much more closely with the group that we've spent so much time with over the last number of months to make sure that the police are accountable, that we really understand what has happened to Charlene and that she's not left, and her death is not left unaccounted for. So if I can come back just to say thank you for this opportunity, and to my colleagues down the row, I know that it was hard to move this as quickly, but I also want to recognize our moderator, Michelle Storms. Thank you for creating the space here so we could hear from Black women.
Thank you. First, Mr. Lyles, I join my colleagues. I'm very sorry that your daughter's life was taken. It's a tragedy at so many levels, and as I've listened to folks this evening, I keep thinking about the children left behind. And as Bruce said, there's something wrong with the cycle where a parent outlives their own child. So I'm sorry, and thank you to all the family members who came and shared your feelings and your wishes with us. I appreciate that very much. I'm also willing to sign a letter to the federal judge and ask him to hurry up. Federal judges don't always do what we want them to do, but we can certainly ask them to do that. I know that the federal judge's monitoring team, which is overseeing our police department, they have representatives here tonight, and they are also closely watching the investigation of Charleena's death. And we know that all of that information and all of the details and all the facts of that will be released in due time. Bruce spoke about the bias-free policing law that he has sponsored and will be considering in committee in just a few weeks. I'm also very supportive of that. And, some of you aren't going to like what I say right now, but several decades ago, I was a Seattle police officer. And it breaks my heart that we are still here today dealing with some of the very issues that we were dealing with back in the 1960s and 1970s. And that's a failure for all of us. And I accept my responsibility in that. And I know that working for the last year or so with Councilmember Gonzalez and authoring with her the legislation with the Community Police Commission that is going to radically change how civilians oversee our police department and investigate cases like this. I think we're on the right path. We just need to make sure that we continue and get this work done.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to say
I don't want to sound this like to be a political speech. I don't want to take advantage of this horrible tragedy for political gain or my career. But I want to say this. I took 4 pages of notes and I listened to 24 women, and this is the first time in my life, and I'm 57, that I've ever been in a meeting this big where I only heard from my African American sisters, ever, ever. And like I said, I took 4 pages of notes, and some of the words from Roxana, Reverend Harriet Walton, Miss Anderson, I didn't get her first name, Rose Floyd. Rose when Rose said to yield to a black woman, that spoke to me on so many levels as a Native American Latina woman. Listening to Nikita Oliver, Miss Madison, and Joy, a friend and neighbor of Charlene, all of you came to us with your stories and your pain and your want to know, what are you going to do next? Well, I know what we've already done with police legislation and reform under the leadership of Councilmember Gonzalez. It's in front of Judge Robart. We all worked hard on that. We all voted on that unanimously. We can't not understand and know what's next on the inquest. That Councilmember Gonzalez and I have watched the inquest and know that that will be coming up with King County, and we promise you that we will continue to be vigilant and stand by that. We will demand accountability, transparency, and community oversight, and not allow this to happen. I come from the Native American community, and those of us remember when we lost John T., that we didn't have this kind of room to heal. What I heard tonight is that besides being in pain, and I want to thank the family, because not only did you bring your pain, but you brought love, and you brought laughter, and you brought stories about Charlene. And where I come from in Indian country, that's what we do. We talk about those. And, you know, it's interesting that Roxana said something that I was telling people before we came out here, that where I come from, when we lose someone, we don't say their name for a year. And I know the chant is say her name, but for me, culturally, we don't say that because we're allowing that person to go to that next world, and we don't want to call them back. And the healing has to begin. And so, without sounding too hippy-dippy here, and about kinship, the word in Blackfeet is akiwa, and that means healing. And that's what we wanted to do tonight. We weren't trying to hide. We were not trying to take responsibility. Maybe other people were doing that, but I know my colleagues and I were not. We wanted to face you, we wanted to be courageous, and we wanted to hear and we wanted to see your anger and your pain and your concern, and more importantly, those of you who hollered out, what are you going to do? Keep doing that. Thank you.
So I just want to thank you all for spending your time here in this space, listening to each other and giving us an opportunity to share some words with you. I want to especially thank the Lyles family for being willing to stay here from the start to the end. This is not an easy thing for you all. And as you can see from what you heard in this room today, that there's a lot of people in this room and a lot of people in this city, and I'll include myself in that category, that are grieving the loss of your daughter, even though we never had an opportunity and the privilege to meet her and to know her. And I just want to thank you for sharing some stories about her and for being willing to give her the humanity that she deserves in this space that is a sanctioned space, that is a space that was brought together by an institution that I recognize has a lot of work to do to dismantle institutional racism that eventually leads to these tragic, tragic results of losing somebody like Charleena and causing further trauma to 4 children who don't deserve it. So I want to thank you for being here with us. In terms of what we're going to do next, this is a first step. I've been very clear about the fact that I believe that this is a first step. I practiced as a civil rights attorney for 10 years before this. I've sued the Seattle Police Department for biased policing, for excessive force. so on and so on. And we're asking the tough questions. You heard Councilmember Swant, and you heard a few other council members talk about how we have sent a list of very hard-hitting questions to the police department. You should have all received a copy of those questions at the front. We need to continue to ask those tough questions. We need you to push us to continue asking those tough questions. And somebody out here said, we will hold you accountable. I hope you do. I want you to hold us accountable because we are accountable to you and only to you. This is a first step. Let me repeat that. This is a first step in this conversation. Through what I have heard is that we need more training. And we as policymakers need to get a better understanding of what those trainings are. When we say de-escalation training, what does that mean? How did de-escalation training fail Charleena? How will it fail the next person? Those are the questions that I know we need to be asking. It is the questions that we're going to continue to ask. The taser questions around taser policies. We have issued a series of questions related to why it was that this officer chose to put his taser in the locker as opposed to taking it with him. So I think it's important for us to take a closer look at those training policies and to identify whether or not we need to improve them. I want to address what Nikita brought up in her comments around the legislative process and moving forward. We have already begun the process of asking the judge for an expedited review of some of the more critical parts of that legislation, including making sure we get our Inspector General in place to help figure out how we're going to shake the trees around some of these systemic issues that keep happening. So we will continue to push the court to ask for an expedited review, and we have people from the police monitoring team in this audience, and I hope that they will work with us at the city to encourage an expedited review given the circumstances that we're dealing with and given the fact that we can't wait any longer for these systems to be changed. So the last thing that actually, two more things that I just want to say in terms of what I hope to be able to do are we need to continue dedicating lobbying resources at the city to change state laws that are creating injustices and inequities. And to me, there's a few areas where that matters, and I'm going to try really hard not to get wonky on you guys, but one is the law that basically makes it impossible to charge an officer is wrong. We have to continue to fight to change that state law so it's not impossible to charge an officer for a felony murder when the evidence supports it. And this is an absolutely important systemic change that we will commit the city to continue to lobbying for. The last thing I will say is that I intend to go back. I know that you all hoped for the chief to be here. I had extended an invitation to her. She was unable to accept my invitation. Contrary to popular belief, I do not have subpoena powers. I cannot force her to appear before this committee. And I will, however, when we go back, I will encourage and I will hopefully work with my colleagues who are interested in pressuring the chief to have her own community hearings with the community, because I believe that that's the right thing to do, and I believe that you all deserve to have an audience with her, and I hope that she will take advantage of that opportunity. So with that being said, we are going to close out this hearing. I want to, before we all break up, there's a lot of people who worked really hard to create this space for you. And I want to acknowledge Michelle Storms, our facilitator, for being with us. And I want to just take a minute to acknowledge all of the silent folks who are in the background working very hard to pull all of this together, and that is the staff of various city council member offices, including my own. So if you could raise your hand if you are here as a staff member or volunteering, please raise your hand and be acknowledged. So I want to thank you all for coming, and I hope that we can continue our work together and in unison. No further business being before this committee. We are now adjourned.